Hi, it's Carrie. I'm here with Dr. Hansen today, and we are going to ask him some questions about stem cells. Dr. Hansen, you want to say hi?
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. So I've been making a lot of posts in the Facebook groups about stem cells, and I've had people reach out to me privately for questions. And so I thought it'd be really great if we just got you on video going through what some of those questions are. Everybody, if you have questions, also feel free to add them to the chat. Dr. Hansen and I can make another video later covering any questions we didn't cover today. Or if you just want to know more and you want to speak one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me through the Facebook group or through Facebook or call the office. So let's go ahead and get started with what some of these questions are. So, all right, first, Dr. Hansen, can you just give us an overview of what makes stem cells so much better and so much more effective to treat for certain kinds of therapy?
Yeah, stem cells are really exciting, and in some ways they're similar to other treatments, but the way that they really stand out is the really quintessential regenerative aspect. So a lot of therapies are quote unquote regenerative in that they emphasize the body's ability to heal, but stem
Mhm.
cells literally heal. So say you've got a bad knee and the cartilage is all worn off, stem cells go in there and don't just facilitate healing, they go there and replace that cartilage. That stem cell turns into a new cartilage cell, and that makes that knee whole again. That's super exciting. That's really the big difference between stem cells and other regenerative therapies.
Okay, so how does that work? Like, how are stem cells able to take on and become other types of cells? Because that sounds really crazy.
It sounds kind of crazy, but that's literally what they do. In fact, that's how we become who we are. Because when we're in utero, we start out as just a little clump of stem cells. And then our mom, she has a bunch of stem cells on the umbilical cord, in the placenta, et cetera, that are kind of constantly being shunted towards that developing fetus so that when it's time to grow a finger, that stem cell goes and becomes a finger. When it's time to grow the heart, the stem cell goes in there and becomes the heart. So literally our entire body, all of our cells came from stem cells. It's like the roots of a tree, right? There was a seed initially. How did it become that enormous oak tree? Well, initially it was a seed, a quote unquote stem cell, and then it turned into all that other stuff.
Okay, that's really great. Thanks for sharing that. And just as an aside to everybody watching the video, how the stem cells are gathered was something that I was really curious about, and I was really wanting to focus and make sure that they were obtained ethically. So I did some research and talked to Dr. Hansen, and all of the stem cells that they used are from donated blood from full term babies. So babies are born, the placenta and the umbilical cord are cut, and it's donated from that. So I was really assuring for me personally to hear, and so I'm glad to see that you partnered up with somebody that does that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big concern. I don't know if you want to jump in on this, but that's
yeah.
commonly was a big concern was, aborted fetal tissue and worried about, viable babies. But the reality is that we realized that the majority, the really high potent good stem cells were just actually being tossed out after the fact. So the placenta, the umbilical cord, which are chock full of these amazing stem cells, were just being disposed of. And now we realized, it's just pure gold in there. So that's actually being donated or harvested, whatever you want to call it. And there's no loss whatsoever, no harm, no foul.
That's great. That's awesome. Uh, all right. So you and I have spoken before, and you mentioned that stem cells, in addition to being injected into a joint and really targeted and potentially regrowing cartilage, you also mentioned to me that it can be used for certain neurological treatments like fibromyalgia or things like that. So can you go into a little bit as to how that would work?
Yeah. So kind of the easy way for people to get their head around stem cells is with like what I mentioned with like a joint or a cartilage or something. That stem cell going in and becoming a new something.
Hmm.
But really, stem cells, what the research is showing is we clearly see kind of three main functions that these stem cells have, and the kind of becoming that new cell is just one of them. Now, technically, that's all of them, but the functionality, there's two other ways that we can think of stem cells. One is with immune system modulating. Stem cells are
Okay.
extremely effective at modulating the immune system. When I say modulate, that means up or down. So a lot of times people say they've got an overactive immune system and need to bring it down, or they've got underactive immune system, they need to bring it up. Stem cells, doesn't matter where it's at, maybe it's high over here and low over there, stem cells even everything out with the immune system, which make them extremely effective or helpful for treating, any sort of condition that has issues with the immune system. And
So
the
like
other one is
autoimmune is where your immune system is too active?
autoimmune is like when your body's attacking itself. You have a misdirected immune response, essentially. So your body thinks that itself is the enemy and it's not. So you're kind of, autoimmune attacking itself.
Okay, and then if somebody was on, I hear the term immune suppressed. So if somebody has a suppressed immune system, it can help in that way too.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
could be somebody who's chronically sick, or somebody who's, for example, pretty much anybody who's dealing with cancer tends to have a very suppressed immune system, and so they really need their immune system bolstered, and stem cells are really good at that. Now, lots of things are really good at that, and I don't know that boosting the immune system is, the first thing we would do would be to jump to stem cells. But if we're looking at, a really severe condition, somebody who's already done a lot of different things, or somebody who really just needs to kind of run the gamut on approaches to their condition, then stem cells, what the research shows, extremely effective. Kind of one of the core functionalities of stem cells is modulate the immune system.
Okay, and so you mentioned there were three, and I heard two. So what was the third?
Yeah, number three would be the cardiovascular system. So helping with the cardiovascular system as a whole, blood flow, that sort of thing. And the interesting thing about something like fibromyalgia, so that's a complicated condition, and it's tricky because pretty much no two cases are the same. If you have fibromyalgia and somebody else does, and they fix theirs, you can do everything that they did and maybe not see any difference whatsoever.
Okay.
And there's a couple different theories about kind of what plays into fibromyalgia and how that develops. But two of the strongest actually are issues with blood flow and autoimmunity. And so that's where, with something like fibromyalgia, stem cells can be extremely effective because, as opposed to somebody who's got a bad knee and we're regenerating that knee, stem cells can be used in a different format to, with somebody with fibromyalgia, to modulate their immune system and replenish or rejuvenate their cardiovascular system.
So all of this is super exciting. Thank you. Thank you
Really
for
cool.
sharing. I have a couple more questions I know that everybody wants us to ask. So I'll go
Let
ahead
me
and
just
get
say
those.
that, stem cells are being, I'm sorry to keep diving in here,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
but super exciting for me too. Stem cells are being researched clinically in about 400 different areas, meaning right now, stem cells are exciting to research in general. And they're pretty much saying, if we throw stem cells at this or that or this, or pretty much anything, what happens? And we're seeing just the most amazing stuff pretty much across the board. I mean, here in Texas, we had the first case of, it was a teenager, he was like 19 years old, paralyzed from the waist down. They did stem cell therapy on his spinal cord and he's walking again. So that's not
Wow.
bionic legs. That's not some huge
Yeah.
surgery. That's stem cells on the spinal cord. And that's kind of the first category I mentioned. Go in there, regrow nervous cells, nervous system cells, and then the body turns back on. The implications of that are insane. And you name it these days, and stem cells are being studied for it. That doesn't mean if you're out there right now and you're paralyzed, you just come to Dr. Hansen and say, hey, fix this, and we'll just, kind of squirt some stem cells on it and you'll be good. That's definitely not the case, but it's an amazingly exciting area of research right now. And I think, assuming that politicians and policy don't screw it up, stem cells are going to be a really exciting part and integrated part of our, healthcare moving forward.
Thank you. I'm glad you went into a little bit more detail. So I have a little bit of a vanity type question, but are stem cells very effective in helping people look or feel younger? Just keeping
Oh man,
youthful.
it's tricky because I I feel a little bit embarrassed and worried that healthcare has become so like marketed, and stem cells, because they sound really amazing and they are, they're also being kind of leveraged in ways that I don't know totally agree with. Now, that isn't a blanket statement. So when we come to like vanity treatments or anti-aging and that sort of thing, I think for sure stem cells are part of that, and very, very effective. But I think you definitely need to be careful. So I hear about you start to see like, oh, here's this face cream and it's got stem cells in there, and they're gonna sell it to you for an arm and a leg. And if you dig into it, you find out it's less stem cell treatment and more, just marketing. I don't know. So there's that. But for sure, I have seen some pretty amazing anti-aging sort of results with stem cells in various ways. One, you can use it similar to how you would use something like PRP or ozone for like a facial type treatment, or I don't run a med spa, so I don't know the names for all this, but the rejuvenation type treatments.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But also, I would just tell anybody right now who's thinking, okay, I want to continue to feel young and look young, consider what really makes people feel and look old. And it's not just a couple wrinkles. There's way more than that. Somebody who's, I'll keep using the same knee example. Somebody whose knee is bad and they can't be active, and now they're in chronic pain and they're hobbling around, and you get this deterioration where, in my experience with the people who age really gracefully and really well, these are the people who are able to stay active and feeling good. They didn't just figure out a way to stretch their face back so much that they look like a teenager again, right?
Yeah.
So I really see, I think at a really honest and true level with stem cells in an anti-aging sphere, I see that when we can make their body continue to work for them as if it was 20 years younger, and make them feel, great and energized and active and pain-free. Those are the things where that person who's, 50, 60, 70, 80, that's, in my experience, what makes them really feel young again. But I don't think that stem cells are a magic wand that will just make you look like you're 18 years old.
All right.
Does that make sense?
It was worth a try. It was worth me asking.
Yeah.
All right. So if somebody decides that they're interested in this, what would they do next? They're like, oh, I like everything Dr. Hansen is saying. What do I do now?
I think we really like to just take every individual as an individual. And so I would never just say, hey, if your knee hurts, use stem cells. Because, maybe there's an easier option, or maybe there's, just, again, everybody's different. So I always say, situations like stem cells where somebody's considering it, always a good evaluation is the best place to start. And then just have a good, honest conversation about what's really going on. Are stem cells the best approach for that? What are your goals? Some people just want to feel better temporarily. And I say, well, there's other things you can do. You don't need to, spend the money on stem cells. But some people come in and they say, look, I just want the best long-term solution now. I don't want to try all those other things out. I just want, I want to put this to rest right away. So give me the best, there is. And, that's, a situation where we might say, okay, well, let's just go for the stem cell sort of thing. And, maybe we follow that up with a variety of other approaches to make sure that it really is as effective as possible. I always really want people, I think sometimes we get so fixated on the symptom, we forget to consider the cause. And so, if that knee is bad, why? Right? So maybe the stem cells go in there and repair it, but it's just like, if a building is burning and you send the contractors in there to start redoing the kitchen before you even put the fire out, like it's just going to keep burning up. And so I wouldn't want that for anybody. And so always I want to consider, okay, well, what's making this knee bad in the first place? And I think I could talk about this forever, but I think, most people, they tell themselves, well, it's just because I'm old. And the question is, well, how old is your other knee? How old are your shoulders and your hips and your elbows? Because it's all the same age, but something made that knee, go bad, quote unquote bad, and not all those other joints. So, I would suggest we get to the bottom of that in the process. And again, just keep the long-term in mind.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so all right, so how much do stem cells cost? Because we're talking about it and people might be interested, and just giving people like a general feel for if they want to do it, what would they be looking at as far as price
Yeah,
goes?
they're definitely not typically your cheapest option. Well, depending on what your situation is. But for most people, they're less expensive than their deductible. So if you were considering something like a replacement surgery for your knee and you've got a $10,000 deductible, you're going to spend less on stem cells than on that surgery. So,
Okay.
but again, every situation is a bit different because with stem cell therapy, we have to be very again, it's not just a simple like grab some stem cells, put them in there, everything's great. We want to consider the types of cells that we're using, the quantity of cells, where we're putting them, the size. Like, a knee joint is bigger than an elbow joint, right? So what are we treating, and what are the goals? How badly degenerated is it? That sort of thing. And then also, like I mentioned, addressing more of the causes so that we can really make sure that the long-term results are there. Also, what the research is showing very clearly is that following stem cells up with PRP treatment actually really amplifies the benefits. So typically with something like, again, say a knee, just a really straightforward situation, we might actually do 3 or 4 different treatments, the first being stem cells and then some follow-ups with other things to get the most out of it. So just kind of depending on what somebody wants, if they just kind of want the bare minimum, just give me some stem cells and that's it. Or if they want, let's do a structural evaluation, let's do the follow-up treatments to really, with the PRP, let's, do they need to be braced or not as they
So
heal?
just a quick interruption. So everybody on this call might not know what PRP is. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but can you just explain that in like 15
Okay, yes,
seconds
that's
or so?
another more common regenerative therapy used very widely, especially with athletics. Very good for healing and repair joints, soft tissues, tears, sprains, that sort of thing. And it's platelet-rich plasma, so it's your blood that's drawn, spun down, so it separates, and then you pull out the healing factors in like a condensed form, and then re-inject those into an area to promote amplified healing. Extremely well studied, very, very effective. Not stem cells, but very useful for certain things. And
Okay.
in conjunction with stem cells, very, 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 very helpful.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for doing the video today, answering questions. Like I said to anybody when we started, if you have some additional questions and you want us to record another video, we can do that. Or if you want one of us to reach out to you to give you more information, I'm happy to do that. Put something in the chat or in the comments on Facebook, or you can just send me a direct message, or you can feel free to call the office. Dr. Hansen, do you happen to have your office number memorized and you can share it?
Do I have my office? Yes.
Okay. I don't know my
Yes,
number, so
phone number is 210-460-6264. It's Hansen Health Solutions. Yeah, 210-460-6264. This is super exciting to me. So there's tons to talk about. And I could go on for hours and hours, but I'm happy to answer any questions, anything else that you want to talk about. Yeah, this is fun for me.
all right, thanks. Thank you for your time.
All right, we'll see you guys.